The change starts with us, and that means not just us, but all of us, each of us.
Hmm.
Um, Jeff, when did you start doing some changes on yourself and really start doing self care and taking care of yourself?
Um, well, it was two different periods of my life. My early 20s, I just think I did all the thing that all like that early age group. You're struggling. You're getting into the workforce, getting your job going, working, doing the thing, and I just like really started trying to figure out who I was really. And when I thought I found that person, I like got into a relationship and really just like completely lost myself in that relationship. Uh, and that didn't go well because I wasn't true to myself throughout the whole thing and different things. But then when I ended up like getting out of that, that was when I really was just like, all right, I gotta like you're in mid 30s, you gotta figure get your shit together here, type thing. And so like decided to really find out what makes me happy.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. It was a relationship, and then I really had to find what makes me happy too. And that's when I found out I never really loved myself. And if I did, it was smothered, and I forgot how to do it sometime in my childhood. And then when I figured that out, just the whole world, changed again. And yeah, I was in my mid 30s too. I was 33 years old then. What about you, Candace?
I mean, I think, I mean, I have had like a couple periods of the same, but I think really when I transitioned and decided to leave the management role and quit like trying to climb the ladder and just step back and do something that I loved was part of like that was the biggest transition for me.
Oh my gosh, yeah, when the same time that I found myself, the same time I got let go out of the army, retired out of the army uh, medically, and it was just I had the time to find myself and heal, and target things, and then research. Hey, this can help with this, and then implement those. And if I was go 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 working, especially if I was in a management position, there would be almost no time for self care. At least not like it was like when I first started doing this. And thank God for COVID. That gave me a lot of time too to just really work on myself.
Thank God for COVID. COVID woke me up too, mainly. I mean, and like I said, I was already the end of the relationship was like right before COVID, so I was already trying to do the whole like spiritual journey, but then COVID started happening, and you're just like watching the wheels of this machine just like rattle in front of you, and you're like, how are people not seeing this craziness? And so like, it just made me really dig deep and like s- decide to be true to myself and do something like step away from management position, the same thing, and just like I'm gonna do something I love. I don't even care if I feel like I'm sick of doing like I'm sick of just like working and feeling like I never am stopping doing something. So like and it just like you said gave me time to sit back and just like look at what's important. And I just think that like the whole like we talk about how we're the best and we're the best and we're the best here, but like our system is set up to just work us into the ground. And like then what do you get to like you finally get to enjoy life when you maybe have grandchildren, like that's not.
Yeah, you can
Right.
enjoy life when you retire at the age of 60 plus after your two broken, fat mental illnesses, brain malfunctions, neurosis, and lack of self care have all taken over all your abilities to participate in living. That's when you're allowed to live.
And it's not even that like look that it's like we're tricked into this because there are some people that live very lavish lifestyles in this country. But what I'm saying is if you look at overall the percentage like standard of living for the vast majority of people in some of these other countries, the median, the middle class are much stronger in these countries. Like they
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
yeah, they don't have as high a gap between rich and poor. Like,
right. And just their quality of lives are better. That's the big thing, you know.
Right.
they
Like,
have all the same stuff we do.
right, I thought this was not only the land of the free and the home of the brave. I thought it was like, hey, we also are leading the way in innovation, and you know, I thought it was a prestigious country. That's the word I'm looking
But the
for.
thing is we're like we're trying to shove stuff down just in the wrong like it's we're not doing it in the right way. We're like we're not starting at a young age and actually interacting and trying to teach our kids through doing and the way they actually learn. They're trying to make kids just sit and listen for 8 hours and learn to read before is even. Whereas if you just put labels up where they're
It
playing,
all
you know what I
starts at
mean?
childhood, right?
Yes, like you use the tools while they're exploring the world like they should
No,
be to help
because
them learn.
exactly. But you know what's more important around here is worrying about, are we going to say the damn prayer in the school or not, or are we going to hang 10 commandments on at the school? You know, not all those things you just talked about. Those are not at the forefront of these, you know, educator boards and
I mean, the crazy
residents.
thing is like, okay, so we complain in the Bible Belt about how like people bitch about prayer not being in schools. Well, like, dude, if we lived on the other, like the West Coast, and they were putting people like that are like dudes in lingerie singing to my little kid at the library, I'd be pissed off too, man. Like, and that's the thing is like our school system, the public school system in this country, is made to create little zombies. Like
Hmm.
you said, if they're too hyperactive, they're going to medicate them, and then that's going to start them on a string of medications for the rest of their life. The problems with the kid, not the schools. Like, and
Hmm.
it's just like it's
And then
ridiculous.
it's got these little cultures
Hmm.
fighting and battling each other, right? So then it's like a
Hmm.
civil war, but instead of with bullets, it's just a civil
It's
war
over
of
your kids' minds, and
it's
they're
over our
just turning
minds
them
and
into jelly.
resources. Exactly. And it's polarizing people, you know, to be one or the other.
Right.
Yeah, man.
And which one it depends on where you live.
Which one depends on where you live. You know, it's just like statistically, people born in any country are going to stay in that country because they're anchored there for whatever reason. Just like people that are born into a religion are statistically never going to leave that religion because that's where everyone they know is. That's where their family is. That's where their friends are. That's where their community is. That's where their business relationships are. You know, every people outside of that are look. You just kind of an oddball, and why would we want a life full of oddballs? No, we want to fit right in. We got a group to fit into, you know?
But the funny thing is when you ask a kid, and every single kid I've ever asked, if you think it's a good thing that people have different opinions, every single one of them is like, yeah, of course.
Dude, even adults will say that now. And then you're like, well, what about the opinion of God? Oh, no, I don't mean that, you know? Of course, there is just one way for that. I mean, you know, other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
What do
draw
we know
more and
there?
more boundaries on other people's opinions the older we get. It seems that's like one of those things where we talk about like learning something new every day. Like we've created so many boundaries, and like I think America, you were talking about how like people stay where they're like business partnerships and stuff, blah blah blah. Like in earlier, like America is one of the biggest microcosms of that in the world. We do have like one of the most diverse populations in the world, and you go to like you know some of these bigger cities, and there could be people from 40, 50 different countries in one place, and I mean we just like until we can learn to erase a lot of those boundaries, people tend to like we're easily led to fight each other. I mean,
Dude, America is the land of opportunity. If you want to hustle your ass off, you can. You can make so much damn money. But you know what sucks is you shouldn't have to do that. And if you don't want to do that, you shouldn't be shunned and have to be homeless. You should be able to live any kind of life you want in America and live at peace. But you know, it's not like that. It's like you either hustle your ass off or we shun you as you've lost your mind and you don't even you know how to appreciate capitalism. So therefore, you're looked at either handicapped or a nuisance.
And the crazier thing is like we start seeing all these little economic bubbles, and you talk about you can hustle and you can hustle, and that's the thing. Like I watched, you know, my family have normal jobs throughout the 80s and 90s and just like work and work their way up and be able to live fine. I figured, you do the same thing. But that hustle, it's taking a lot it's starting to take us more and more and more and more hustle. Like that bubble is getting bigger
Hmm.
and bigger and bigger. So like so I step back and look at like how I've been told capitalism is like the best thing ever and socialism is evil. And like I do look at countries like Venezuela and think that like, all right, socialism didn't work there, but like capitalism is like a system set up on like credit and debt now, and like with like, it's just set up to never be able to like balance itself.
Guys, I wish I could tell you that we are the best because of capitalism and we are doing the best and the best and the best because of capitalism, but we're not. And I, I mean, I guess if you could say capitalism, the only thing capitalism is good for is having the most revenue coming in to spend on a military, then God, yes, we are the best at that, and capitalism is fucking awesome. But man, that's just I don't value that as much, I guess, as other people.
I think what happens is like, I mean, we end up looking at like Cuba or Venezuela or China as like our socialist example, and it's just like I don't believe like I mean you'll hear me talk about I don't like I don't trust our government. I don't believe we should give 100% control to all resources to our government. I mean that's what happens like in these countries where socialism just slowly collapses because basically they're doing the same thing our government's doing just out in the open. Like they're just stealing everybody's money. Our country like pretends like we're not doing that and pretends like we have low taxes, so we charge you more for your health care. We charge you more for every underlying cost, and you end up paying more for your standard of living than anyone else in the world. And it's just like we're tricked into believing that like none of this is true. What I'm saying is like we obviously have the resources to do like we could be like basically a utopia. We should have no homeless people.
Because
Like
It's
if
true.
Japan can do it, we should be able to do it.
right,
Absolutely.
Cuba and Japan should not have a longer life expectancy than Americans. I mean, I'm glad they do, but you know, according to America as being the leader, we should be leading that. And at the actually the whole world should be up there together. We should all be pulling each other up, and as a
True.
humans.
Well,
But
that's the thing. You look at like these Bill Gates foundations and stuff like that, and it's just like, all right, if we're really making the world a better place, why aren't we teaching these other countries like farming techniques instead of just buying up all their land and then not actually doing any agricultural projects over there? Like, there's a lot of things where it's just like it seems very contradictory. The money's there and the people are willing to fix things, but like the people at the end of the rainbow are just funneling the money in all the wrong directions. You've seen it in
Mm.
like child care, like
Yeah.
it's all over the world, like where people are trying to help people, but then the money gets stopped at the very rich and famous and gets diffused out to
to more rich and famous people,
yeah.
and just little shell organizations, that they just
Mm.
create. It's as charitable organizations. Oh man, who has one of the highest other GDPs in the world is the Vatican, and what do they sell? They just sell God, man. Think of how much money people are just given in this country to God and these churches. Like,
Well, God doesn't make as much as war does because
Right. It doesn't. No.
It's only they're like the 18th or 19th top country in the world, but like our top GDP in the world, and the fact that like the Vatican is a country inside a city.
And it's like the smallest country
Yeah, but
within the 20th biggest GDP.
yeah, I mean that says a lot.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, but think here. When I was a Christian, it was, hey, you got to tithe 10% of whatever you make, and then you give that to the church. And if you can give more, give more. We That's a lot to these. Think if you're a, a family of 3, 4, 5, or 6. That's a lot of money for families, and I never realized that until I was like divorced and like a single parent, and I was like, man, that would be a lot of money. That'd be crazy. And what do I get out of return? And then you find out all those other theories and things that are fake and stuff. And
Martin Luther saved me from ever feeling like I needed to give money to a church. The Protestant Reformation, like told me that everybody at one point realized that you shouldn't pay money to the church, and then I don't understand how like all these Protestant branches of Christianity just immediately are like, yep, give all my money to the preacher in the church. Like you realize that like Martin Luther, and the whole reason for the Protestant Reformation is because the church was charging for salvation, and like he believed that like you shouldn't have to pay for salvation. And I think that there's
no, I don't think as a Protestant I was ever told that. I think it was spun to me that the Protestant Reformation was to get away from Catholic spiritual beliefs and make it more of a literal sense of beliefs and less ritualistic and more literal. But God, because if I would have, because it makes complete sense what you're saying. I mean, that would make sense. Let's get away from that.
I don't remember when I was taught that. I thought it was in high school, man. I really did. I don't because that was one of those. It was another one of those where I'd been to a bunch of different like types of churches where I moved around. I was Methodist, Baptist, non-denominational. We did it all. Like I did all the different
Right.
churches, and was just like, we don't even all believe the same stuff on the Christian side. And then I had like some extended family that were Catholic, and during a couple holidays I went to like a Catholic mass and did that, and was just like, wow, this shit's even crazier. Like no wonder we
Right, no wonder we left that.
Yeah,
That shit's nuts.
Yeah,
They
like,
got
it was just
costumes
even
going on and stuff. What is this, Halloween? Is this
But man, like the crazy thing is the older I got, the more I realized that like even though all those people were different, like they would double down and back up Jesus, man. Like so and I know that it's possible for people to like come together and just like put aside their differences. I just don't think that it should have to be because everybody on the planet believes in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think it's probably what you said is the real reason for what Martin Luther did. But then, it's kind of like to hide that, we're going to say it's just because for our own freedom of religion and to we
Because they
understand
started
Bi-
their own business.
We started our own business. Let's say, it was because we understand the Bible better. I mean, differently or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean that might not be an America problem. I mean, the
No,
world.
that's it's a religion problem,
Yes,
right?
it is. Like most wars stem from religion.
Yeah.
It
If
stems
not all,
from-
just like
yeah,
all
it's-
countries stem from wars, and those wars were about religion, and so it's like almost every country is based on religion, and it's crazy to think about.
Well, I think that's one of those reasons why that's the one that's so hard to get out of people's like dogma, like get out of their like just like cultural way of life. Like that's the one because it's like
It's the hardest thing to break free from is probably is religion.
well, I mean nationalism is a big one too,
It's
man.
so hard. Oh yeah, nationalism.
And I don't know if that's just because of the way like I said our education system works where we're like I mean, we're doing our pledge of allegiance every morning, we're doing that stuff like the asking kids to pray and do the pledge of allegiance every morning to me is like one of the like scariest indoctrination things, and it's just like one of the reasons why I want to homeschool. I mean, that's just one of them. Like I said, if you're in the Bible Belt, people are pushing the Bible down your throat, and if you're in some of these other like super liberal states, shit's just going off the fan. To be honest, like I'd rather like just because of my personal beliefs, would rather live in the Bible Belt. I think we're lagging behind in some of the things that really affect me personally, but like, I mean, there's still like there's some of the things that I think that I agree with more, and that I don't I don't know, man. Like the
I'll
the
tell you, when I realized that I was America's mercenary for rich politicians with greed mindsets, I was like, why the fuck are people in the army anymore? Why I'm in the army? And now, like when Kaepernick was like kneeling, for the flag instead of standing for the flag. I mean, like, I don't see nothing wrong with that. I'm like, do you? Maybe he understands what America is about. We are not about the people. We are not about freedom and liberties, man. We are about greed and money. And like, why would you stand up for that and pledge allegiance to that? To me, it's just mind blowing. I mean, and that's shit I got to talk with my therapist about every week. And I mean, it's crazy.
yeah, man, and the machine just keeps on keeping on.
Right. And people are like, oh, hey, should I join the military? And I'm like, I mean, if you want to, if you need to escape poverty and you want a 20% chance of being homeless and you want a high percent chance of having a mental PTSD or depression or anxiety from trauma that you get while, in your career,
Are
then
you
great.
poor and desperate?
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, if you're poor and desperate, it sounds like a good gamble.
And the
I,
crazy thing is like you know they're gonna parade in front of you some of the
Oh,
like
and we got to
the
prop them up too,
yeah,
right? We got to thank them for their service. And it's like when every time someone says, "I thank you for your service," I'm like, "For what? For going and blowing up and killing people in Iraq and stuff? Like that's a terrible thing to be thanking for, man. It's like we didn't do nothing good over there. There was no weapons of mass destruction. You know, to think that these guys could just come over here and blow up our own towers and us not stop them is just mind blowing to me. To think that we are supposed to be the best defense country. If we spend the most money, the only thing we spend money on is defense. So you think we couldn't stop some crazy non-American people from driving American planes in here with the Air Force and scrambling jets and radar systems and get out of here.
or the intelligence agency that we had didn't know anything about it.
Right.
Like I mean, that's the thing is like we have all these resources, and there's a lot of like mismanagement. We talk about like Ukraine being the most corrupt countries in the world, and just because like we created a legal system in which it's legal to funnel our public's money to these private companies doesn't make us not corrupt. And we created a system to where we've made it okay, like, and that's the thing is like
We're half the country's running around here thinking this is God's country, and then the whole world's looking at us like we're the most greediest bullies in the world. And it's like, who's right? I'm not saying. How do you guys think the other countries, and other people in the world look at America?
I haven't traveled a lot outside of this country, and I do like. I mean, there's part of me that like knows we have the potential to be the best country in the world, and I just think that like really over the last about 100 years that our politicians were bought out by big companies, and there's a lot of like people in the world that get unalived, and like they have way more connections than any of us type thing. Like it's turned into conspiracy theories, and are like the stuff that's on the mainstream media is like always the same, like just same type of theme that's fed to us all around. That's like, and if you notice that like everything that's paid for like on the mainstream media, like everything that's funneled through these same few companies produce the same messages at the same time, and we're fed this fast food culture. We're delivered from one crisis to the next, and it's like the same people that are telling us the crises are coming are the ones selling us the solutions, and it's just like we're allowed to not participate in all that. Like it's starting to happen all over this country, and like that's what I mean by like we have the potential to be the best country in the world. Like we just have to take our power back.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's some things that make America that has the most potential, I guess, to be the best country in the world. We're a huge country. We got huge resources. You know, our population's getting bigger. We just need to let more people in here. I mean, if we want to have, really the biggest thing, we need more people. People right now are making people. I'm not saying people are slaves for the machine of capitalism, but someone has to do the work to generate that, and that's the people. It's like poor people aren't taking the dollars away from capitalism. It's the rich people that are hoarding it in the banks that are taken from the poor people. So it's like all these people are worried about all these government programs giving money to poor people, or we'll call them less fortunate people, however you want to look at it. What are they're just using that money to pay for bills and buy things that turn around and make the economy go up, and that the middle class and rich people's stocks go up, and they're just getting richer and richer and richer. We should just be giving more money out too. It's just going to go back to business owners and stuff. That's what always, it gets me now. When I used to be a Republican, and I'm always like, man, you know, how are all these businesses owned by Democrats? It just don't make no more sense, because it seems like Democrats just want to give out all the money for all these programs. Now it makes complete sense. Give money out, and then you're going to come right back and spend it, and then the profits go up. Now, I am not a Democrat. I am an independent
I was gonna say I
libertarian.
used to be a Democrat, and it worked the opposite way for me. Like oh man, like the craziest thing, just like you watch America, like people want to work, like the jobs. People used to be able to just be like a milkman and pay for an entire family in the 50s, like, and it's just like the type of job that qualifies for a single income household has gone.
It's ridiculous.
It has evolved over the last 70 years, let's say, and now it's gotten to the point to where most families have to have dual incomes, and like as these jobs, as that just keeps, that's going to keep shrinking and keep shrinking. That is
Can anyone work at a restaurant anymore as that their sole income? I
no,
mean,
and that's the
I don't
thing is
think
like
so.
our
No, they would have to have more than one job.
that's ridiculous.
and the capitalist, like this debt to income ratio society, like to where like you're constantly paying interest and debt, like that gap is going to get bigger and bigger. That fuels the inflation. Like that's why like we just keep having to print out money and create new, because debt is ever growing everywhere, and like our entire society is built on that debt. And these jobs that are right now helping pay the bills, 20 years from now might not pay the bills, is what I'm telling you.
It's
And,
because
like,
that same thing has happened already in
right.
the past.
Yeah.
So it's just going to keep going if it keeps on its current trajectory and the way of progress.
Like unless we change, and I do believe that we have the potential to, and we can change, and I like
That's what sets humans apart from any other animal, is that we can change our mind at any time. We can change. We can turn around and do a 180 anytime we put our heads together and want to.
collective consciousness, guys. Like the more people that believe the world can be a utopia, the more like the closer we will get to creating it.
Yep. Heck yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Candace, for being here. It's been lovely having you.
Thanks for riding the waves, Candace.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you guys next time on Transcendental Waves. Don't forget to subscribe. We're getting back to those comments now. We love your guys' interaction.
Yep, keep the comments coming, guys. Love you.